I want to welcome everyone to the Republican Club presentation. My name is Shirley Morgan, and I'm past president of many past presidents of the Republican Club of Laguna Woods. Our speaker today is Bob Lindor. He will review some of President Biden's executive orders and their effect on our lives. Bob is also a member of the Republican Club of Laguna Woods. He is our voter registration chairman, and he is president of the Tea Party Sentinels. Bob has a master's degree in physics at the California State University and master's in engineering mechanics from the University of Texas. And Bob, here you go.
Thank you for that nice introduction, Shirley. You know, you can tell a president's political and social views by his executive orders. Biden has 61 executive orders, 37 memorandums, 122 presentations, and 23 notices. To explain, a presidential executive order has the effect of law. It can be declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court, or it can be overturned by Congress. If Congress decides to overturn it, it goes back to the president. If he vetoes it, it can be changed by Congress by 2/3 vote. And we can explain later on what a memorandum is. It's similar to an executive order. Since there are so many executive orders, we'll only be covering around 10 in this particular meeting.
Okay. The first one is 13988. It's preventing and combating discrimination on the basis of gender identity or sexual orientation.
Yeah, and that sounds very good. But if you read the details in the executive order, this law lets biological males compete with biological females, even though they have the same body, muscular body, and to use their restrooms, the locker rooms, except in women's jails. It risks daughters' and granddaughters' safety by allowing biological males of all ages to be with the women. There was one incident reported where a baby was born in jail due to a transgender male. This law is unfair to young women who want to succeed in sports, including, as happened recently in the Olympics. So that the name of the law sounds good, but if you read the details, by the way, this is all on the Federal Register. If you go to the internet, all of these executive orders are on the Federal Register.
You know, in regard to that executive order, when a male decides to become a female, his body still remains the same. He has a muscular body, so it's just not fair that they can compete in all these different events with the body that they have. Okay, the next one is 13993, revision of civil immigration enforcement policies and priorities.
Yeah, President Trump had an executive order 13768, sections 4 and 5. We're pointing out exactly where, in some of them, where these statements are, because the executive order is very long. So this is section 4 and 5, which states enforcement of immigration laws in the interior of the United States. That was revoked by what I'm going to explain was revoked by President Biden. Now sanctuary immigration laws in the interior of the United States are willfully violated federal law. It violates federal law, like, for example, allowing sanctuary cities, allowing prisoners to leave jail, and ICE is not allowed to pick them up. It violates federal law, and it shields aliens from being removed from the United States. This people's safety is threatened by illegal immigrants who are let out of jail and can't be deported. U.S. recidivism is over 50%. Recidivism means people who are let out of jail for a crime repeat the crime. So over 20,000 murders already occurred this year. So this creates a problem with crime.
We all remember the illegal person up in San Francisco that killed Katie Steining back in San Francisco. I don't remember the year, but she died in her father's arms, and he was one of the illegals that was let out of prison. So this is not a good executive order.
That's correct.
The next one is 14025, worker organizing and empowerment.
Worker order, yes, this is this also includes Executive Order 14003, Section 1, protecting the federal workforce. What this is basically is protecting unions. They only accept collective bargaining. Unionized workers only do government contracts. List goes to all the agencies of the government. This executive order is unfair to workers who voted against unionizing at their company because they were happy where they worked. So this is done strictly to get union votes.
Again, it's the government taking over small businesses. Many of them can't afford to go into the unions. It's just not fair. Okay, number 14019, promote access to voting.
This supplies voting material and education to the Federal Bureau of Prisons to allow inmates to register to vote and to vote by mail. And this includes criminals who care less about law and order. So this promoting voting sounds good, but allowing criminals to vote is very questionable. If I can add one more thing to Executive Order 13993, President Biden's memorandum now this is a memorandum of April 6, 2018, revokes ending Trump's catch and release at the border of the United States. Now we see what's happening at the southern border. The cartels are getting rich by bringing in illegals and by bringing in opiums like fentanyl. 9% of illegals processed had coronavirus, and so probably the ones that were not the ones who snuck in also had that percentage. They come in the United States and they could spread the virus. The cost of this border problem is $210 billion that we have to pay, and they already arrested 8,693 aliens crossing the southern border in the last 10 months, and we have no idea who they are. Presidential memorandum, by the way, which this is similar to executive orders, but they are neither numbered nor do they have the same publication requirements. So it's also the same as a law. It has the same impact as a law. Sorry about that, Shirley. I missed
That's okay. The next one is 14008, Part 2. Section 208 says stop all renewing of oil and natural gas leases on public land and offshore waters.
Yeah, that's Section 208 and also Section 202 in Biden's executive order tracking the climate crisis at home and abroad. Well, these all sound nice, but putting climate crisis in the center of U.S. foreign policy and national security for all agencies is not a good idea. This is the same Biden administration begging Russia and OPEC to produce more oil to keep United States gasoline prices down. Being against climate change and then restricting our production of natural gas and oil, and then asking Russia and OPEC to produce more. That's all backwards. Section 216 also is questionable. He wants to increase from 12% to 30% government ownership of public lands, and this would really hurt the farmer. And that one you have to really dig deep down into the executive order. In a lot of these things, the executive orders may have around 10 pages or 15 pages, and you just have to go and look and what they sneak in there is these things which will hurt the United States.
Well, there again, we're with the oil and gas leases. We're getting high prices of gas because we don't have our energy like we had before. So it's just a bad one. Okay, the next one is 13990, protecting public health and the environment and restoring science to tackle the climate crisis.
Yeah, now this one you go down to section 4 through section 6, it revokes the Keystone Pipeline. Other sections related to litigation to enforce climate change regulations against coal and gas industries. Under Trump, we produced 18.4 million barrels of oil a day and consume only 18.2 a day. We produced more than we needed. We did import some, but that was through special deals with certain companies. Now we have more dependency on OPEC for energy and Russia. Higher costs for gas and oil, as you said, Shirley, increases the hardships for people. Now, Russia's Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline to Germany, Biden refused to sanction that, sanction companies running the project. As regards coal, Russia is spending $10 billion to boost coal exports. India has 75% of their electricity generated by coal. 75%. They're not going to change. It's the cheapest way for them to go. Poland has 80% of their electricity generated by coal. You can imagine how it hurts the GDP, GNP, if you don't have electricity of all the things you can't operate.
Now, it's just, Russia keeps building more coal mines, and we are eliminating ours. So there goes to show you where the energy is going to come from. The next one is 14030, crime-related financial risk.
Climate-related financial risk. Yeah, this requires major suppliers to publicly calculate and disclose greenhouse gas emissions and climate-related to financial risk, even if the financial organization has nothing to do with producing carbon. It has nothing to do with the climate. Like, for example, the Federal Reserve. I mean, all it does is create more costs and burdens to companies, and based on assuming a government prediction of climate change is right, which there are new articles about questioning the model. So here again, it hurts business, and it's another one of his executive orders which does that.
And it seems like everything they do goes back to climate change. Okay, the next one is 14006, eliminating private operated criminal detention facilities.
Yeah, he doesn't like private companies. There are 116,000 people in private jails in 2019, the last that was recorded. 8% of the total prison population. Jails are now overcrowded. They're overcrowded already. And since 2019, even more so now. Biden is against private companies, private schools, and private jails. The government must control everything. This is political orientation of the Biden administration.
There again, what you said is right, Bob. The government wants to take care of everything. They're going to take care of us through everything, right?
That's some people call it socialism. I don't want to give it a name.
That's true. Okay, the next one is 14006, eliminating privately operated criminal detention facilities.
Yeah, we just did that
Oh, we did
one.
that one. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry about that.
If I
Okay,
want
well, there is about the revokes the apprenticeship.
Yeah, that's a
program.
memorandum.
Yeah.
That has no number. That was done in February 17th, 2021. It revoked President Trump's Executive Order 13801. Apprenticeship programs were done away with. Now, why would they do that? Apprenticeship programs allow students in trade schools to also work for companies and get real-time experience and get paid. Why would anyone rule against that? Well, Biden had a problem. These students were not union members. So what Biden did in his, there's a new executive order, which I haven't listed here because it just happened a few days ago. He allowed apprenticeship, but then he allowed it through the government only and only through unions.
There again, control through the unions. Okay, number 13985, advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities through the federal government.
Yeah, and this is a very long one, and it has a lot of repercussions. It sounds okay, doesn't it? Advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities through the federal government. Well, it revokes executive order, Trump's executive order 13950 and executive order 13958, establishing the President Trump's adversary 1776 Commission to stop teaching critical race theory. It ensures that critical race theory, this particular executive order, ensures that critical race theory will be continued to be taught in public schools. Encyclopedia Britannica defines critical race theory, it quote, and I'm quoting, the intellectual movement and loosely organized framework of legal analysis based on the premise that race is not a natural, biological, grounded feature of physically distinct groups of human beings, but a socially constructed, culturally invented category that is used to oppress and exploit people of color. Critical race theories holds, and that's a quote. Critical race theory holds that the law and legal institutions in the United States are inherently racist insofar as they function to create and maintain social, economic, and political inequalities between whites and non-whites, especially African Americans. It pits dangerous racial tensions, particularly with children, by teaching some races are bad, and it leads to this leads to discrimination. Now, this has been instituted. This critical race theory has been instituted in many, if not all, government agencies. The Treasury Department has a re-education on race. They teach white employees to own their racism. The Federal Reserve also, July 16th, 2020, in the New York Post, wrote that article, and so did Hillside College. They filed it under the Freedom of Information Act. Other federal agencies, Sandia National Labs, 3-day re-education camp for white males. This was reported on cnsnews.com, exposing white privilege on August 31st, 2020. Also, Argonne National Labs, also a federal entity, Department of Homeland Security, diversity, training on microaggression, and oppressor rules. This was written by Christopher F. Rufo, from the Discovery Institute Center on Wealth and Poverty. He did 4 documents on PBS and contributing editor of the City Journal. The FBI is holding workshops on intersectionality, which is also about that whites are racist. And the worst part is the U.S. military is getting a re-education on race. A book by Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Labmar, who was in the Space Force, had a master's degree, wrote the book Irresistible Revolution. He quit. He didn't want to teach this stuff to the people under him. Republicans in Congress are looking to amend the National Defense Authorization Act to ban critical race theory from military institutions. President Biden's equity means preference to some racial groups over others to achieve equal outcomes. This is not equality of opportunity. Equity means they all have to have the same outcome. A federal judge in Wisconsin recently issued a temporary restraining order against a $3.8 billion Department of Agriculture program that allocates loan forgiveness by race, aimed at helping, quotes, socially disadvantaged farmers, unquote. A USDA fact sheet boasts it steers benefits to those who are black, Native Americans, Pacific Islanders, and Hispanics. Legislation includes a further $1.01 billion for USDA to create a racial equity commission. Notice this is equity, not equality. White farmers said the allocation by race is unconstitutional and quotes use of race-based criteria, unquote. This violates the Equal Protection Law. Revoking Executive Order 3950 and 13958 will just create racial tension. This shows you have to read these executive orders in order to understand where the Biden administration is at.
You know, Bob, Trump wanted to promote the using 1776 as a way to teach children, and they brought over 1610, which is basically starting with race. Everything is race, and we've seen it now through everything they do in schools now. The parents are getting up and resisting this, and it's just not good when children come home from school and say that their teachers say that we're racist because we're white and we should hate America. That is wrong.
Yeah, I'm happy people are finding out about this, but like I pointed out at one point, a lot of this only is gotten by the Freedom of Information Act. The government is not transparent, so people are not informed.
Okay, the next one is 14019. Wait a minute.
Can we do 14022? It's a very long one.
Oh, there we go. Okay, I've got a different page. Okay, termination of emergency with respect to the International Criminal Court. Sorry about that.
Yeah, this terminates Trump's Executive Order 13928. But the situation with respect to the International Criminal Court, called the ICC, and its illegitimate assertions of jurisdiction over personnel in the United States and certain of our allies, including the ICC, International Criminal Court, prosecutors' investigation into actions allegedly committed by the United States military, intelligence, and other personnel related to Afghanistan. It threatens to subject current and former state government and allied officials to harassment, abuse, and possible arrests. These actions on the part of the International Criminal Court in turn threaten to infringe upon the sovereignty of the United States and impede the critical national security and foreign policy work of the United States government and allied officials. It thereby threatens the national security and foreign policy of the United States. The United States is not even a party to the Rome Statute and never accepted this, the ICC jurisdiction. This includes, they were trying to try Mike Pompeo for crimes against humanity because of the people who were killed in Afghanistan. They rejected Taiwan's participation in the World Health Organization, though they backed China. They appointed Syria and Belarus to executive board, where Belarus has Assad the dictator, and Syria has Bashar Assad as dictator, and Belarus has Alexander Lukashenko as a dictator. So they're obviously biased and influenced by China. The Executive Order 3993, a revision of civil immigration enforcement policies and priorities. It revokes Executive Order 13768, Section 4 and 5, which states enforcement of immigration laws in the interior of the United States, now sanctuary jurisdiction across the United States, willfully violates federal law in an attempt to shield aliens from removal from the United States. I'm sorry, Shirley, this was another executive order. This was the enforcement of immigration policies. People's safety is threatened by illegal immigrants who are let out of jail and cannot be deported. U.S. recidivism rate, as I pointed out previously, is 80%. Over 20,000 murders have already occurred this year.
Well, we see so much of that on the news, with all these illegals being let out of prison or not even going to prison and committing all these crimes. And again, I refer back to the one so nationally got attention was the one up in San Francisco with Katie. Okay, the next one is 14045. White House Initiative on Advancing Educational Equity, Excellence, and Economic Opportunity for Hispanics.
Yeah, and this one is a new one. This order supersedes Trump's Executive Order 13935 of July 9th, 2020, White House Hispanic Prosperity Initiative. So that's hereby revoked. Now, it sounds like Biden's initiative, executive order, is really positive. It sounds like President Trump's previous initiative is very positive. Though this order, unlike President Trump's 13935, does not specify U.S. citizenship. That's the difference. So Trump's opportunity for Hispanics in programs were for, it said American Hispanics. Nothing in Biden's order says American Hispanics. So citizens' money, and lots of it, will go to support illegal aliens' education and help them economically. This is taxpayers' money, again, that shouldn't be used for illegals.
And again, we should promoting our U.S. citizens with Hispanics and not from other countries coming in. Next one is 14019, promoting access to voting.
Yeah, that's in Section 3A of that executive order. Whereas absentee ballots are for request only, and I've done it, a lot of people have done it. This is vote by mail for the whole United States without a request. So it's sent out to anyone. If the person is deceased, if they left the state, there's no control. The ballot can then be available for fraudulent votes. So this voting by mail as opposed to absentee ballot is really one way to allow for people to illegally vote.
And I think that's something that they want mail-in voting for everyone, and that's where you run into problems. And I think that's where a lot of this balloting harvesting came in, where they can take anyone's ballot and do what they want with it, maybe, and send it in.
It's unfortunate, yeah.
Right. Okay, number 14010. Creating a comprehensive regional framework to address the causes of migration.
This is a very long one, Shirley.
Yeah. To manage migration throughout North and Central America, to provide safe and orderly processing of asylum seekers at the United States border.
Yeah, and that sounds very good, except it revokes Executive Order, Trump's Executive Order 13707, Section 4F of January 25, 2017, which was building a wall, monitoring and hiring more personnel and appropriate technology at the wall. This was for border security and immigration enforcement improvements, addressing mass migration through the southern border of the United States. So in terms of these words, these long words in the executive order, what it does, it revokes President Trump's executive order controlling the southern border. So we're only saying a few words about that, but we know the results of that, as we can see.
And I think with them not allowing the border to continue, Texas is now getting private funds to build their own wall. So hopefully that'll go through. Okay, number 14035. Diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility in the federal workforce.
Yeah, so this is another executive order which says we got to have equal equity, and the words equity is in that, diversity, equity. We've got to have equal outcomes for everybody, independent of race. I wonder if they would apply that to basketball. Anyway, in the federal workforce, black employees already make up 31% of the federal professional workforce, but only 13% of the U.S. population. Black employees have 10% less college degrees, so there are less top management positions. This executive order is affirmative action or racial discrimination based on race, not capability. This order is again based on equity, equal outcome, not equality. And what we want in this country is everyone to have the same opportunity. We don't want putting people in positions where they're not capable of handling. And this is done strictly for political reasons.
Well, there again we come into race. Race seems to take the lead in anything that they're doing today. It's race discrimination or whatever. Okay, number 12029, revocation of certain presidential actions and technical amendments.
Yeah, and Trump passed two executive orders, 13933 and 13980. 13933 was protecting American monuments, memorials, and statues, and combating recent criminal violence. To prosecute in the fullest extent permitted under federal law, and as appropriate, any person or any entity that destroys, damages, vandalizes, or desecrates a monument, memorial, or statue within the United States, or otherwise vandalizes government property. So that's one that Biden revoked. The other was the 13980, protecting Americans from over-criminalization through regulatory reform. Agencies promulgating regulations that may subject a violator to criminal penalties should be explicit about what this person did wrong and about what conduct is subject to criminal penalties, not to start investigating an individual's complete history without having any accusations. This is I would think this is constitutionally illegal, but that's what's going on. They just probe the background, see what they did when they were teenagers, and bring accusations against them. So this would revoke Trump's executive order protecting people. There's one memorandum I have here, and that's on January 28, 2021, protecting women's health and at home and abroad. This rescinds President Trump's Mexico City policy, which was a ban on the U.S. government funding organizations around the world that perform and promote abortions. These are private organizations that contribute to other countries, and we were giving them money, and what they were using it for is to promote abortions. Well, President Trump said no, and he made a executive order that no, it was a memorandum. This rescinds this Mexico City policy, and so we are still spending taxpayers' money around the world to promote abortion. This has nothing to do with the United States. As of right now, it takes a lot of time to go through each executive order. Each one is like 10, 15, 20 pages, and you have to go through it and find out what exactly is the intent of this. And every now and then you find that there's something there that he's squeezed in.
Right.
And these, by the way, are laws of the land. So they cannot, if you violate them, you're a criminal. And that's what I have at the present. We will be going over more executive orders at another session.
Well, as I say, with him every day signing more executive orders. If you all remember when he was inaugurated, he was sitting at his desk and he had a pile like this of executive orders that he signed, and many of these were included. And I thank you, Bob, for a great presentation, and hopefully that people, our members, will learn something from this presentation. Thank you.
I want to say one more thing. If anyone is interested in getting a copy of this, they can call me, area code 949-597-9940.
Thank you.